بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يا عباد الله، أوصي نفسي وأوصيكم بتقوى الله. Today is the day of Friday, Yawm al-Jum'ah. The Muslimin gather for Salat al-Jum'ah. The essence of coming together, being in a community, to join together and pray together to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The asl, the basis, the foundation, the asas of every ibadah is taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taqwa can be translated in many different ways. Taqwa can be understood as many different ways. Some people translate it to be fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some people translate it to being aware of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some have the understanding that taqwa means to be always conscious and mindful that you are present in the very presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May you be in a crowd, may you be alone, in jalwa, in khalwa, in public, in private. One knows that there may be a few people watching me, many people looking at me, or me myself alone in my solitude. There is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala watching me. So this is the taqwa I remind myself of, and why I invite the Muslimin to come to. The subject I'd like to speak on briefly for this Jum'ah gathering is the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ لِمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو اللَّهَ وَالْيَوْمَ الْآخِرَ وَذَكَرَ اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا. In the Prophet of Allah alayhi salam is for you an example, a model, a role model. Understanding role models, human beings are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to serve a purpose. The purpose of creation is to gain proximity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, gain His ma'rifah, to worship Him, lil-ibadah. And in the innate fitrah of insan, if you were to look at human beings in general, and the example I would set as a prime example is a child who in his childhood, who in his young age is very close to his fitrah because he's not been exposed to many ideas. So he behaves to the best of his ability on what his programming language is, if I was to put it in those words. And we notice a child when he's young, the only exposure he would have initially would be his parents and the family, and then the extended family. And the child starts to emulate his elders. He starts to copy them. He starts to behave like them. He takes upon behavioral conditioning from those around him. This is done consciously. This happens on a subconscious level. I don't want to delve into that, but I'm talking about what the norm is. There are obviously exceptions to this. But this is how a child behaves. He looks up, he takes lesson, and he emulates. He understands his protectors. He understands his sustainers in the initial age, people who feed him, who clothe him, who house him, who love him, who tend to him, who take care of him. And he looks up to them. This is something very fitri. When a child grows older and he leaves his house, he makes friends outside of his house, he has teachers, he goes to school, he lives his life. He starts looking up to other people. He starts redefining many things that he understood differently previously once upon a time. He will take on other mentors. He will take on other role models. This may again happen on a conscious level, or this may happen unconsciously, without him wanting or willing to, but he chooses someone as his new hero. Someone he follows, someone he emulates. Right now we have celebrities, we have soccer players, we have other people who children follow and want to become like. The reason behind this following is because they want to achieve something. They want to go somewhere, they want to get somewhere. They understand the situation more. They start to find themselves. They start to reflect. They ask questions. And then they choose to follow someone is because I want to be like that person. I want to possess what he possesses. I want to own what he owns. I want to have what he has. And for me to have a life such as his, I have to do what he does, or she does, or whoever they choose to become. And at every age, this changes. Why is this the case? It's because he has defined success in that position, in that person, in that place, in that role. He says, this person is successful. I choose to become like that person because I'm seeking something. I'm wanting something. This is how he has defined success. This is how he chases success. I'll speak on this further when we talk about the role models that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set in place. Understanding this need, that this is the nature of humankind, the Khaliq, the Lord, the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already put in place for us people to emulate. Because we're created for a purpose. We're not here to live here forever. We don't belong here in a manner of saying. We're transiting in this world. This world is not our home forever and ever. We are here now, like those present with us. We will leave like those before us. And there will more to come, fill our shoes and leave. We find ourselves in problems because we attach ourselves to something which is not going to last forever. The problems arise in not possession, but in attachment to those possessions. Imagine someone who is transiting at an airport, going east to west, west to east, different countries they transit at, and he says, you know what? I shall make this my home. I like this place a lot. It's much better than my home. First, it's illegal. Secondly, it's not practical because you're transiting. You're not living here forever. So now this innate need, this desire to want a role model, to desire a role model, to follow someone, to emulate someone, has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who Allah? Which Allah? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, or He supplied a demand before the demand was created. I'm talking the norm here. A woman, before she becomes a mother, before the child is to enter this world, just before that, she's ready to feed that child. The provision is already there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided before He set you up for a task. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you to worship Him, and the worship entails that you know Him, that He has given you the means to worship Him, and He's given you the understanding of worship Him, with role models is put in place. Who shall then we emulate? We emulate people we regard successful. Ask a child, ask any young man, it's like, what is success? How do you define success? How do you see success? Who is successful? The child will say, he will take a few names. He says, this man is successful because of this much money he has, this much holdings he has, these many positions he has. But you see, The Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wasalam, they define many things very differently. And once these definitions set into place, once you understand on a subatomic level how these things are defined, you come to understand, see the world, view the world, change your worldview accordingly. Amir al-Mu'mineen Imam al-Muttaqeen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wasalam is defining success. Everyone's heard this. You know where Ali ibn Abi Talib defines success? I'm only talking on the zahir, on the apparent. Ali becomes zahiran the fourth Khalifa. He has taken Kufa to be his capital. There's a lot of civil unrest. A man comes up at the time of Fajr and strikes his head. The Emir lifts his head and he says, Fustu wa Rabbil Kaaba. By the Lord of the Kaaba, Ali is successful. It's like, how are you defining success, Ali? What is the success you're talking about? It's because Ali had principles. Ali understood the meaning of life. Ali is defining life separate from how we define life. Because Ali learns from Muhammad, Sahib al-Wahi. Muhammad is his teacher. Ali followed him like a fasil, like a baby camel would the mother. He understands life differently. He has defined many things differently. How we understand shaja'a and what shaja'a is in their vocabulary. If it is two different things, we will have a different worldview. When you start Hausa, these students are here, these pure brothers of mine. The first subject you study is mantiq after your adabiyat, because you have to understand how you define your epistemology. If my definition of something and your definition of something is two different things, we will not arrive at the same conclusion, especially when we're debate or we're coming to an understanding. For me to share a worldview similar to yours, our worldview to be the same of the worldview of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salatu wasalam, if we do not define things how they've defined them, we'll always end up in problems and mistakes. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The subject of role models. The time is very limited. The subject is very vast. Quran talks about it. When creating Adam, the angels questioned. Allah says, I know what I'm doing. When he sent the prophets one after the other, the purpose of those prophets was to guide people, teach people, be nur and hidayah and a light of guidance for them. And people follow them. You have Ibrahim, ala nabiyina, salam. You have Musa, you have Isa. All these prophets in their different time. To come to connect you to the Lord divine up above. So you have a connection with your Creator. So they teach you and they tell you. If these are not the role models, truly for ourselves, if the prophets of Allah, if the messengers of Allah, if those selected by Allah, when we say, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم, if the muna'ameen or those people who are not our role models, then we have understood many things many differently. If you do not look up to them and seek emulation and learn from them, if those are not the people we always fall back upon in problems, to seek further understanding, to find clarity, to have a deeper knowledge of a subject, then we need to redefine many, many things. Because إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. Man, ala al-itlaq, is in problems. I was listening to somebody the other day. It was very harsh what he said. He says, man is destined to go to hell because of how we are innately. Like I said, I would qualify to say it. It's very harsh, but there's a reality to it. Us, ourselves, left to our own devices, are very destructive. Because we have periods in of time, all of humanity, not talking about an individual. There's good, there's bad, there's great, there's ugly. And we have different phases and different times. We have ups and we have downs. One man would have a good intention to do something good. The other man has selfish reasons for opposing him. This is where divine intervention is necessary. This is where an emissary of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to come in place. He has to be the ism dhahir of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his zaman, to show people where to go, to guide people, to take them with him. When you look in the ayah of the Quran, kaffatan linnas, for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, many translators have come and says, kaffatan linnas, you are enough for mankind. You're enough for humanity. You're here so you can guide the entirety of humanity. There's students here who have put some work and effort, sacrificed, give up some of their time and life to gain higher understanding. Arabic root word kaffa yakuffu an shay, is to stop from something. And this also is called a kaf in Arabic. Kaffa, if it was to be understood in the wazn of allama, it means the Prophet holds you back, stops you from destroying yourself. Go back and read this ayah again and look at this ayah in this light. This self-destructing nature of ours, because we've been around for some time and we have not attained nirvana. It's a long time and we haven't found that place we're seeking to look for and find. Because we, when there's no divine intervention, fall into mistakes. The Prophet, in one meaning, kaffa, is stopping ourselves from destroying us. The other meaning of kaf is to gather. He picks us and he plucks us and he gathers and he brings us together. And this is the essence of Namaz al-Jum'ah. Namaz al-Jum'ah is a beautiful sunnah in itself, fi dhatihi. But unfortunately, there's a book in the University of Birmingham. It talks about Lucknow, a city in the subcontinent which was striving civilization with Shias and Sunnis side by side, living. And they had this one Jama' Masjid. This is in the 1840s, 1850s. When the colonies started spreading and people were colonized, they went after the city Lucknow because it was a hub of culture, heritage, and also Islam in the Urdu-speaking world, in the subcontinent. Many places were changed, redesigned, abolished, destroyed. One incident to talk about is the Jama' Masjid. The Jama' Masjid was a place where the Sunnis and the Shia would gather together to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Lucknow, 1840, 1850. And they've been doing this for 100 years. They lived in harmony. According to the plan, the Jama' Masjid was not supposed to be touched. But somebody decided it was a good idea to disrupt peace, and they destroyed the Jama' Masjid. What happened was, people started going back to their centers. And the result of that was that sectarian became strife. When we were divided and we ended up in our own masajid, the othering began. I started looking at someone who was not a part of my community or my masjid as the other. This was the ruh and the essence of Namaz al-Jum'ah, Salat al-Jum'ah, Khutbat al-Jum'ah. This was the power where all Muslims who fall under the kalmah of Tawheed, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, gathered together in prayer and in harmony. But was taken away then, and it is being hijacked now. I don't know how many people have a background from Muslim countries, but they will see and they will notice that there's an agenda in place. It is a utilitarian rule or tool they choose to control people with. The Jummah has become a mouthpiece. This pulpit has become a mouthpiece for the agendas of people trying to control community in the name of God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look at all the Muslim countries. A sermon is delivered to them from their offices. It says this is what is to be said. And unfortunately, the purpose of bringing Islam and Muslimin together in harmony and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the spirit of it is gone. If I cannot walk into a Jama' masjid and pray because my Muslim brother prays there and I can pray with him in harmony, where's the tajammu'? Where's the Jum'ah? Where's the gathering of the Muslims? Where do we then pray? Where do we then go? It is being highly politicized to serve the agendas of a group, a sect, and to create more division and more divide. This is unfortunate. And I know I was asked of to be leading Salat al-Jum'ah. I don't find myself, Jami' al-Shara'it, in that, to be fit to lead Salat al-Jum'ah because of the sole reason of how this Salat is being used, this beautiful Sunnah, established by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to keep the Muslims together, is being used to divide the Muslims, to serve the selfish purposes of those on top, so their agendas can be rolled out through Salat al-Jum'ah. I know all of you here to pray Salat al-Jum'ah, and Salat al-Jum'ah, according to Samahata Syed Sistani, amma muqallid, Samahata Syed Sistani, Shaykh Wahid al-Khurasani, Salat wajib takhiri, and the ikhtiyar is in either praying Jum'ah or praying Dhuhr and Asr. I would be leading Dhuhr and Asr, if that is okay with all of you, because I know the Saponas people are coming here. But there's a point I need to get through, and I need people to understand. The essence of Jum'ah is ijtima'. The essence of Jum'ah is bringing people together. It is the role of the leader of the Muslims to roll out the khutbah so that people, Muslimin, can gather together and come together and not divide and separate and make othering happen. It is the role and the responsibility of the Hujjah of the time, who is absent right now, to assign the Imams of the Jum'ah. I would like very much to these children sitting here to go back home and today and ask their parents. It says, we usually come and the format of the Salat is one thing, but the format has changed. Why has it changed today? So you realize, because in the name of this Jum'ah, not on this pulpit, this is a beautiful place. This is my 3rd month here, and I have learned many great things being here. But this message needs to be understood. The Sahib al-Asr has a haqq. The Imam of the time has a haqq. One of his huquq is he assigns with the people of Jum'ah. But if I put myself in a position of authority and I give myself a title and a label to usurp his right, that is not right. Me in my capacity cannot stand for that. Cannot myself, again, in my personal capacity, cannot allow that. That his right is usurped, and people use something so beautiful as Salat al-Jum'ah to turn it around and use it for the selfish ends and the selfish means. This haqq is only for the Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajal Allahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Wa Sallallahu Ta'ala ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Wa subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wa assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa jazakumullahu khairan. I'm sorry I would end very soon, but I need to get this message across to people. When we're talking about role models, understand the essence of the role model. If the role model is taking you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's inspiring you with the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he's someone you emulate and you follow. But as soon as you see a selfish need, a selfish desire, as soon as you feel that there is someplace else this person wants to take me, which is not to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter how he is dressed, how he looks, how he behaves, how he carries himself, it does not matter. If he does not take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be very careful of him. Understand, the friends of shaitan will not show up in regular clothes to disguise you. They will dress up in something very similar to this. Be very careful for your children. Be very careful for your aqa'id. Be very careful for your aqibah. Be very careful for your generations to come. If God's centricity is not the message coming across, if the hub of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not the message coming across, if bringing together is not the message coming across, be very careful and run far away. Do not take your kids there, because it is very dangerous. Choose role models for your children. Be careful, very careful in choosing role models for your children. Who they sit with, who they stand with, who you show them to follow and emulate. And we find ourselves in a time where the charlatans are many, but the earth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not devoid of his friends. The earth of Allah la yakhlu min hujjati. The earth of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never be empty of his hujjah. Allah will always have his friends. And most often than not, dressed more like you than like me. Living lives more like you in this world than like myself. Friends of Allah, true friends of Allah, with the love of Allah, who live for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The love of Allah is part of their flesh and blood. They are those stars that you can look up to, those people who will guide you. But we wait and we wait impatiently for the last promised one, who I will recite the salawat upon and end this. And before this, I would like to say a request to prayers. There's individuals who are here who are supposed to be here today but are not here, either because they have passed away. May Allah make munawwar their graves, and are not well, some of them. May Allah give shifa to them. But till that day, please understand who you choose as role models and who's supposed to be your models. Till what day? Till the day the rightful Imam, the Hujjah of our time returns, who is the Sahib al-Da'wat al-Nabawiyya, wa-Sawlat al-Haydariyya, wal-Ismat al-Fatimiyya, wal-Hilm al-Hasaniyya, wal-Shaja'at al-Husayniyya, wal-Ibadat al-Sajjadiyya, ومأثر الباقرية والآثار الجعفرية والعلوم الكاظمية والحجج الرضوية والجود التقوية والنقاوة النقوية والهيبة العسكرية والغيبة الإلهية القائم بالحق والداعي إلى الصدق المطلق كلمة الله وأمان الله وحجة الله الغالب بأمر الله والذابي عن حرم الله إمام السر والعلن دافع الكرب والمحن صاحب الجود والمنن الإمام بالحق أبي القاسم محمد بن الحسن صاحب العصر والزمان عجل الله تعالى فرجه وشرفه.